This is a scene of seagulls flying through a sunset. Here I've printed out a full-size diagram to trace out. I'm using Logic Trace 2022, and the first selection I'm going to make is the 4 points. You can see here I'm touching the 4 points of the diagram. First tracing command I'm going to use is the line command. This is where I'm tracing out the perimeter of the diagram. It's just a matter of selecting the line command and the curve fit around the corners. Here I'll be selecting the arc command and the curve fit. This is how those commands look like on the actual diagram. Again, I'll be selecting curve fit for that curve along the bottom. Also at this spot I chose to save my work. I like to save my work frequently, and then I've got a diagram to go back to if I've made some mistake. The project I picked here is to draw up or trace up this diagram to create a DXF file for a vinyl printer and cutter. And I want to mount this file or this diagram on a canvas tote bag. I always mention this, that the bigger your diagram, the easier it is to trace out all the parts. This is a good sized diagram. It's about 16.5 by 16.5 square, so the parts are easily traced out using the various commands. When you save your work, the program saves your work and an extra copy. That extra copy can be reloaded. Say for instance you change your mind on how you're tracing something, you can go back to that working copy and just continue tracing again. That work copy has an extension called TLG. And don't forget, the program has that unique feature that you can move the display contents, the left-hand side of the screen, to another device, like a cell phone or an iPad. So this way you can have that really close to you to make your selections. I find the Logic Trace software easy to use and it's fast. Also, I want to mention the selections of how you trace. That's very flexible. You pick what you like, you pick what you're comfortable with, and try it. So we're coming along here with tracing out the internal parts of the diagram, one by one. And I save it frequently. Worth mentioning here too is that I use that red pencil you'll see occasionally on the screen to mark off where I start my tracing of the vectors, and that way I keep track of what's been done, and also I don't want to overtrace by going past that point because that'll cause a crossed vector. Just wanted to mention all the different formats that I use in this project. We start off by tracing a DXF, then I load that into Aspire to do the vector check, save it as a DXF, load it into Corel Draw, save it as an AI, and then export it as an EPS for the printer software. The printer software, which is called VersaWorks, requires an EPS format. That particular software allows for the printing and the cut contour. You can see here the red pencil I mentioned. On a project like this, I might have about 6 or 7 saves. You'll never go wrong by having a lot of saves. Getting close now to finishing up, so I'll save my final DXF file. I'm going to take that file, I'm going to load it into Vectric Aspire 11.5 just to see if there's any node editing required. Shown here, the file is loaded into Aspire 11.5. I'm going to look at the vector quality and do some node editing. Now I'm going to take that file and I'm going to load it into Corel Draw. This is where I'll apply some color, do the cut contour, and save it as an EPS file for the printing. Shown here, the file is being configured for the printer. You can see the print has started. The cut contour that I mentioned, that's set up in Corel Draw so that Corel will configure the print to be cut out after it's printed. It's really neat to see that print go back into the printer, be all cut out, and then pop back out again, ready to be peeled off or weeded. You can see here the images were pulled back into the printer and the printer cut them out, so they're ready now to be weeded. The lineup here is to get that print weeded, get it pre-mask applied, and get it ready for the heat transfer. Getting ready to set up the heat transfer, we have to preheat it to 300 degrees F, and the heat transfer process takes about 10 seconds. I also give it another 3-second shot of heat using a Teflon sheet between the heat transfer and the graphic print. So the gull scene going through the sunset is complete. The tote bags look good.